A family funeral turns into a full-blown demonic massacre once someone reads from the wrong ancient book, and the only survivor left standing has to fight through everyone she's ever loved to make it out alive. We open with Joseph Price digging through his late grandfather Benjamin's research on the Necronomicon, discovering the actual Book of the Dead and a ceremonial dagger said to be capable of killing the demonic deadites it summons. Despite knowing full well how dangerous it is, he starts reading the incantations aloud, almost as a curiosity, accidentally waking something dormant. A woman named Jessica, whose reanimated body immediately begins hunting elsewhere. Two friends, Leo and Jake, are out fishing when Jake's line snags something horrifying, a severed head instead of a fish. Moments later, unseen wires burst from the water and drag him underwater to his death. And when Leo tries desperately to save him, he pulls up only half a body, the water around him thick with blood. Jessica then emerges from the lake herself, capsizing the boat and boiling the entire lake around Leo until every fish floats dead and he collapses too, walking off through the woods and straight into the path of an oncoming car. That crash victim turns out to be connected to Alice, who's celebrating her brother Joseph's birthday at a bar alongside his girlfriend Thea and her own controlling husband Will. After Will gifts Joseph an expensive pen with a backhanded comment about his long unfinished book, the tension in the room becomes obvious to everyone. A drunken kiss between Alice and Joseph, meant innocently, sends Will into a jealous rage. And outside, Alice vents about his controlling behavior and how badly he manages her every move. When he finds her talking to a staff member instead, he explodes further, grabbing her roughly and blaming her for bringing out the worst in him, insisting none of his past girlfriends ever pushed him this far. Furious, he speeds off alone into the night and crashes directly into the reanimated Jessica. Trapped together in the wreckage, Will tries calling for help, only for Jessica's severed head to warn him that they've found him and he'll lead them straight to his family before restraining him to the seat and setting the car ablaze. Laughing menacingly, grieving and shaken, Alice removes her wedding ring and heads to the funeral home, where Thea tries fixing her tired appearance with makeup and mentions the gun Joseph keeps in his car, admitting it makes him feel powerful. There, Alice reunites with her devastated mother-in-law Susan, who breaks down at the sight of her dementia-stricken mother Polly, who no longer recognizes her at all, and her openly hostile father-in-law Edgar, who's despised her for years and makes no effort to hide it. The ceremony proceeds awkwardly under the constant noise of nearby construction work, with Susan reminiscing fondly on stage about Will's adventurous, surprising nature, while Alice, too overwhelmed to speak, declines when called up herself. As the mortician prepares Will's body for cremation, Edgar insists on a private goodbye, and once alone, hears knocking coming from inside the coffin itself. Investigating further, he's suddenly grabbed by a burning hand, and the horrified mortician, who arrives moments later, gets torn apart with Edgar slowly succumbing to possession himself. Reluctantly, the family heads to their lake house together, despite Alice's concerns that her presence will only make things worse. Though Joseph insists she's still family, and even Susan wanted her there. Susan is found in the attic, organizing Benjamin's hoarded belongings, resentful that Joseph is writing a book about what she calls their grandfather's brainwashing cult. She explains, Benjamin abandoned the family entirely once he became convinced some evil had attached itself to him, spending his final years chasing artifacts instead of caring for his sick wife, a choice Susan still views as pure cowardice rather than any kind of sacrifice. Tensions escalate at lunch. Edgar grows increasingly erratic, accusing Alice of not properly grieving Will and blaming Joseph for failing to stop his brother that fatal night, before the two men rush an unconscious Edgar toward the hospital. In the car, he suddenly reanimates, brutally attacking Thea and mutilating her hand, before Joseph panics and abandons her entirely, fleeing the vehicle as his now fully possessed father emerges from the wreckage behind him. Back at the house, while burying Max in the yard, Alice stumbles upon the very same Necronomicon hidden in the shed, and despite reading clear warnings about the deadites that once hunted her grandfather-in-law, she reads the incantation anyway out of curiosity, accidentally reanimating Max as a deadite knight that attacks her before she manages to fight it off with garden shears. Joseph returns in a panic, revealing Edgar has killed Thea right as a badly mutilated, fully possessed Thea forces her way into the house herself, taunting the family before ultimately getting overpowered and locked in the basement to buy them time. Outside, the family finds a resurrected Edgar, who shoots himself repeatedly in the head without dying, horrifying Susan and leaving her sobbing, while Thea uses her new powers to boil water and terrorize them from inside the house. As the family scrambles to fortify every entry point, Polly, drawn outside by a bargain promising reunification with her lost loved ones, opens a door for the escaped Thea against everyone's warnings, resulting in her own brutal death moments later. Discovering Thea dousing the living room in gasoline, a terrified Joseph reluctantly steps up to confront her alone, only to be overpowered and nearly killed. Taunted about being her first and supposedly her last as well. Managing to stab her with a corkscrew, he watches her slit her throat and drench him in blood before she notices Polly has what they actually want, abandoning him mid-attack to chase after her instead. Once Alice intervenes, Joseph finishes Thea off completely by repeatedly smashing her with a dishwasher lid, the sheer violence of it triggering painful memories of Will's own past abuse toward Alice. That night, Joseph reveals his grandfather's secret society accidentally summoned this evil through the very same book, and that Benjamin spent his life collecting protective artifacts now hidden throughout the attic, offering their best chance at ending the nightmare for good. Meanwhile, Susan administers sleeping pills to Polly, only for her to suddenly reawaken fully possessed, promising the family's reunification if Susan cooperates. Convinced, Susan lets in a possessed Edgar waiting outside, and the two exchange blood, sealing her own transformation as well. Downstairs, a fully possessed Susan lies to Alice and Joseph that everything's been resolved, demanding they hand over the dagger for the family's sake. When Joseph denies having it, chaos erupts. Edgar attacks him violently, while Will's old wedding video eerily plays in the background, and Susan smashes Alice with a candle holder before Edgar drags Joseph toward Thea's mutilated corpse to finish him off using a stray pen. Managing to survive the assault, Alice crawls to safety as the carnage continues, eventually arming herself with a gasoline-filled chopper for a final confrontation. Upstairs, she finds Susan's body and is ambushed by a possessed Polly, who taunts her about secretly enjoying Will's before jamming a pen into her ear and urging Susan to finish her off entirely instead. Alice fights back, stabbing Polly with broken glass and restraining her before Edgar and Joseph crash through the ceiling, forcing her to barricade herself and Susan inside a bathroom. Furious accusations fly between them, with Susan blaming Alice for her family's destruction, while Alice finally confronts her directly about knowingly ignoring Will's for years. Susan then fully transforms and breaks free, dragging Alice through the roof in a brutal struggle. Alice manages to disfigure her and finish her off with the running chopper before heading to the attic, where a fully possessed Joseph attacks her as well. Unable to identify the real dagger among several fakes, she eventually finds the correct one and finally kills him for good, just as Susan reappears, chasing her through a chimney. Escape, Alice turns the chopper on her, obliterating her entirely, and does the same to a returning Edgar, splitting his head open before setting the entire house ablaze and finishing off a resurrected Max along the way. Just when it seems finally over, Will himself appears, vowing that even death won't stop him from claiming her. Alice flees into the woods toward a nearby construction site, calling for help, only to find him already behind her. He grabs her and drops her into a pit, impaling her legs on rebar as boiling cement begins filling the hole around her, declaring he'll never let her live without him. Desperate, she tricks him with a fake dagger, forcing him to dive after it into the cement, then finishes him off with a jackhammer. Even as he stabs her legs and demands the real weapon, she finally stabs him with the actual dagger, and in his final moment, his true face returns, telling her he loves her. Unmoved, Alice tells him it isn't enough and destroys him completely before dragging herself badly wounded out to the road. Rescued by paramedics and finally safe, Alice calmly asked for a cigarette, telling the nurse simply that her ex-husband did this to her. Meanwhile, an injured Polly is shown crawling along a separate road, ambushing a stranger who stops to help her. Elsewhere, a mortician's young daughter, left alone in a cremation room, discovers unsettling activity involving a dead woman's ashes, glimpsing a ghostly reflection before the fully possessed spirit appears behind her.
Mommy's back.